I use technology because I record my journeys. So I speak it aloud and then I record it. I use technology because I put this drumming tape on, and the beat, they say that the brain goes into a very deep state of relaxation, so you bypass the logical mind and you sort of relax. I call it relax, but it's opening up, shifting consciousness.
Those who have studied this stuff from a kind of semi-scientific background say that where drumming and rattling exists in traditional shamanic cultures, the rhythm is at such a tempo, about 220 beats per minute, something like that, that it encourages a particular brainwave to start forming, which is a more kind of relaxed, dreaming state of greater awareness.
Trance and techno music is a different animal, it's not traditional, so I can't really comment, but I would say that it does seem that there's certain frequencies of beats, like a certain number of beats per minute are more effective than others.
So whenever you've got that tempo or that rhythm playing, it's going to take you into that state. And I mean, funny enough, in the 80s, I think it was, there was a band called the Shamen, actually. And most of their tracks, techno tracks, were set at that kind of rhythm. So and they certainly understood, that's what they called the shaman, clearly what they were doing. And that's where your kind of trance music has come from, modern trance music, from all operating at that kind of rhythm.
And it's that the techno and the trance techno is trying to work with.
You can journey lying down and using, for example, music. You can also journey dancing, and you can journey also with a big screen and images. You can journey. It's a very subtle shift.
Clearly, the concept of techno shamanism is to take certain ideas that are and disciplines, techniques that are present in traditional or so-called primitive shamanic cultures. The most obvious being drum. Drum beats has always been used in shamanic work as a way of accessing trance states. There's something about a repetitive drum beat that makes chemical alterations in the mind. This is something I've learned certainly over 30 years of practice, is that it's possible to produce in the mind many, if not all, of the effects, the heightened effects associated with psychoactive substances.
Motivating rhythm of life. Motivating rhythm of life with a healing rhythmic synergy. Motivating rhythm of life. Motivating rhythm of life with a healing rhythmic synergy.
Sadly, I feel that most of the rave scene as shamanism, which is healing, doesn't work very much. Now, I'm reluctant to say so, but really, it's more like techno-sorcery, unfortunately, because not a lot of it is actually healing. When you get people out of their heads on a mixture, cocktail of drugs, mixing alcohol with mushrooms or ecstasy, two things that simply don't go together, out of their heads, spaced out, that is not shamanism, that is not healing, and that is not, in the main, helpful for the person. So a lot of it I see as a misuse of very good techniques. At the same time, it's come out of a yearning, a deep yearning in the young people of the culture, of these cultures, to access altered states, knowing that there is something more, knowing there is an inner space, that it is beautiful, valuable, and where there's wisdom and knowledge.
My first experiences of shamanism go back to the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, and they were experiences triggered by completely unlicensed experiments with psychoactive substances, particularly lysergic acid, diethylamide, LSD, and also with peyote, and later with mushrooms.
Well, this is a classic, isn't it? That you get in newspaper coverage of people who are taking hallucinogens or even smoking marijuana, this great fiendish drug that took over the world in the 60s and 70s, that they're not interested in life anymore, that they're loners, that all they do is sit around in a dream world all the time, as if that's a bad thing,
I was 17 when I had my first complete out-of-body and shape-shifting experience, where I left my body and then flew in the form of a crow. And the crow has always been my power animal.
Well, I've always said to you, we should come down here midweek, and the earlier in the week, the better if we're coming down, because if we do get the place to ourselves, I said time and time again, but you've still got this fixation on weekends.
Ayahuasca's well, it's one of the sacred medicines of the Amazon, but it's used in other cultures as well. But it tends to be an Amazonian medicine. It's a mixture in its purest form of two things. One is the leaves of a bush called chacruna, and the other one is the ayahuasca vine, which is a vine that grows around particular trees. They get very, very thick, very, very quickly, and very, very tall. And the interesting thing is that ayahuasca vine itself is completely inert. If you just chewed on a piece of ayahuasca, nothing whatsoever would happen to you. But the shamans, apparently, this is the mythology that they have, the legend that they have, they used to drink ayahuasca anyway, mash it down in water and drink ayahuasca. And its effectiveness was clearly limited, but it was a sacrament for them. But during their dreaming with the ayahuasca spirit itself told them that you should walk out into the jungle and you turn two corners. And when you've turned these two corners, you will find another bush. Bring leaves back and add that to the ayahuasca mix. And they did that. And ayahuasca now, with those two elements combined, is one of the most powerful natural hallucinogens on the planet.
Psychedelic substances are a tool to assist accessing altered states of consciousness. See, plants give us food, they give us building materials, they give us medicines. Why shouldn't they give us consciousness-raising medicines? It's perfectly logical. If you OD on a factory drug, you can have a really bad time. If you OD on a plant medicine, if it thinks it's too much, it will puke its way out of you.
A lot of people that really have technical jobs, they're slaves to time. to tell you.
We're taught how to see the world in a very literal way, and that's what we believe to be the case. But when you drink ayahuasca, perhaps what you actually see is things that are there and have always been there. But because we're taught not to see them, we cannot see them until we relax that social hold on our mind through a hallucinogen. You call it a hallucinogen, for want of a better word, is how we would describe it in the West. But we're not seeing stuff that we've made up and which doesn't exist. We're seeing stuff which was always there, but we're told not to see it. I mean, we're sitting in a room at the moment that has radio waves and mobile phone waves and radars and God knows what going all the way through it, television signals. It's all permeating us and this environment at the moment. We don't see it at all, but we don't dispute that it's there.
Friends, fellow members of the human race, we are gathered here for a purpose. Let us look together at mankind.
If you go to a psychotherapist in this country to work through your past stuff, then you'll come up against your own demons. If you're living in the Amazon and you go to the shaman, the ayahuasca will show you after a bit your demons. It's your process that happens.
I mean, other things I've heard as well is people now taking ayahuasca, which is, the vine of souls, some of the hallucinogens of the Amazon, taking that in a club context as well. So instead of taking it in a ritual, ceremonial environment where it's really for exploring the self and connecting with this other consciousness, they take a bunch of this stuff and then go clubbing with it. Now, I would have thought that that's kind of contrary, in a sense, to the intention of the ayahuasca, and possibly even dangerous.
Spacing out does not serve. Spacing in serves. But spacing in needs to be done in a beautiful way. And it can be very healing. And it needs help to get in a good space. And also, when you come out of it, a certain amount of guidance and help as to what you do with what you've seen.
I mean, there's this real kind of feeling with ayahuasca that it's something of a medicine for our times. They've started looking at it scientifically and found that ayahuasca is very, very good at working with people who have addictions, for instance, drug addictions or alcohol addictions. Once they take ayahuasca, it helps to clear all that out.
Alcohol is an ego drug. It's an individualistic drug. Ecstasy, LSD, things like that, mushrooms are inclusive drugs.
Now we've got industries, people in employment, money changing hands based on tobacco and alcohol. And the effects of those are deadening in a literal sense, because eventually they kill you physically, but also in a mental sense. We don't process with that, we depress with that, we calm down with that. All of those sort of suppression things. Whereas with something like ayahuasca or even LSD or marijuana, what you're doing is you're moving out of yourself, you're seeing a bigger universe. And I think that's the danger for the corporations. They do not want you to achieve anything but civility. The powers that be, governments, do not want us using our minds. They do not want us expanding our awareness of reality, because as long as we subscribe to theirs, we're controllable. And we are controlled.
Shaman.